Hello, everybody. We just started the webinar and we're expecting a number of people to join us today. So we're just going to give it a couple of minutes while we ensure that everybody has a chance to join before we get started. Hopefully you're here to hear the exciting topic of latest bank fraud trends. Very important for any small business. So we'll get started in just a minute. For those of you who have just joined, we're just giving it a minute to make sure that everybody has a chance to log on to the webinar before we get started. We're just going to give it one more minute to see if we get more people on board, and then we'll get started with the webinar. These always seem like very long minutes. I know that everybody's time is important, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Nancy Verdun. I'm with SCORE. We're presenting today latest bank fraud trends affecting business customers with our webinar partner, M&T Bank. Lee, if you just go to the next slide, please. Just a little bit about SCORE. We're a resource partner of the SBA, and we help small businesses through a number of different avenues. The most important, I think, is our mentoring services. We're a nationwide organization. Our mentors are all volunteer, and we all come from different experiences and background. It's all free. You can sign up at score.org and find a mentor. You can go through and actually look and search for the specific skills that you're looking for, or the certain industries, or you can allow our system to go ahead and match you up. And our mentors will work with you, and often we'll bring in other mentors to assist as we move through your business issue. I was just mentioning that I'll often bring in a marketing professional, accounting professional when we're working on loan documentation and building a small business. The second area that we provide support is by offering no-cost business training. You will see in our marketing that there are some webinars that do cost, but you can get a code that will allow you to attend that webinar for free from your mentor. And the training is, as we see here, for webinars, whether they're live, such as this one. We will do in-person workshops, and we also have a host of recorded webinars. We are recording today's webinar, and anybody who has attended the session will get a copy of the presentation, some handouts that Lee and Scott have provided, as well as the recording to the webinar. And the third area is we share free business templates and resources. So if you go to score.org, there's a whole section where we have all types of materials that'll help a small business owner get started or continue to strategize for their business. But you didn't come here to hear about SCORE today. You came here to hear about bank fraud. So I'm going to turn it over to our business partner, M&T Bank, Scott McBean, if you would go ahead.
Thank you, Nancy, and good afternoon, everybody. M&T has been actually around since 1856, as you could see on the screen. And in New Jersey, we're really looking to branch out and brand our business. And I've been part of SCORE for a little over 2 years now. And I have to say, one phrase I always hear is it's the best kept secret, and it really is. Because we've partnered together with small businesses to where if they did not have their SCORE mentors, they wouldn't be succeeding in the business that they have now or getting financing or lending. So I can tell you, use SCORE to your benefit. Today, really, I thought, to bring in one of my partners, Lee Balcom, who is one of our financial crimes managers. We just really want to look at bringing something that is relevant and that we're seeing increases in business world today. So with that, I'm just going to kick it over to you, Lee, and you can take the floor.
Great. Thank you, Scott and Nancy, and thanks to SCORE for inviting M&T and myself to talk about fraud and some of the trends that we're seeing in the crime world that are affecting banking and our customers. If I, just one warning up front, if I do a good job today, you'll walk out of this presentation a little more depressed than when you came in. So, sorry in advance for that. But I'll start out. I don't have a lot of stats in these presentations, but I'm going to start out with this one, and it's 65% of companies were targets of payment fraud last year. This is a study that's done every year by the Association of Financial Professionals. So this is really 2022 data. So that means, 2 out of every 3 customers, 2 out of every 3 businesses are going to be targeted of business fraud. Whether you're a victim, some of that depends on you. Believe it or not, check fraud is still one of the largest types of fraud that we see, and I'm going to talk a lot about check fraud as we get into this. 30% cited ACH debit fraud, 31% experienced wire fraud, and 71% of customers experience business email compromise. I'm going to spend some time on that as well. So why? Why is your business a target of fraud? Well, the obvious answer is money. You have money, and they want it, and they want all of it. But there's other things that you have that are of value to a fraudster or organized crime. Your intellectual property, your secret sauce, your secrets, that is very, very valuable. They can use that, sell that, use it against you, hold secrets ransom, things like that. Customer information is very valuable. It's more leads for them to try to defraud, and it's information about your customers and that gives them numbers and phone numbers and maybe even dollars and things like that. Your financial information is valuable. Your employee information is valuable, and believe it or not, medical records we found that they're still in those, and they use those for insurance fraud. Now, who is out to expose your business? I've got 2 here: internal threats and external threats. Let's start with external threats. You've got the individual threat actors, a one-off fraudster, and then you've got hacktivists. You've got organized crime. Organized crime is probably the biggest, with the nation state right there with it. Nation state, I mean, countries like Russia and Iran and North Korea are some of the Nigeria, some of the biggest offenders. They want to steal your information. They want to put viruses and malicious code on your machines, disrupt your business. And, sometimes it's after a social or political agenda, or sometimes it's just straight out cash. And then you've got internal threats. So people who work for you or your vendors. There's 2 types there: malicious and then negligent. Malicious means, an example of that would be somebody who has left your business or left your employee, and they're not happy about it. So they have information that maybe they're going to sell, or they're going to try to give it to somebody to do bad things against you. They're just straight out negligence. Maybe somebody left their passcodes and went to the coffee shop and left passcodes to all your systems sitting on the table there. So that type of a thing. I'm going to start with what we call a business account takeover. We're seeing a lot of this recently, where fraudsters are calling up customers pretending to be employees of banks. And this is not just M&T. This is all big banks, small banks, even credit unions and smaller banks. It's all over. They use fake names. They might even take a real employee's profile off of LinkedIn and say, "This is Lee Balcom from M&T, and I noticed that you had some recent fraud on your account, and I want to help you out with that. We saw some bad checks, or we saw a bad wire. I just want to verify some information with you." Maybe they'll tell you that you need a malware update on your online banking or your treasury center. So what they'll do is they'll ask you for information. They'll have you log in, and they'll ask you for, maybe they send you that 6-digit one-time passcode or multi-factor authentication. They'll send you that, and they'll ask you to give that number to them. Remember, you might think that you're talking to the bank, so you give it to them. Next thing you know, the fraudster's going to go in, they're going to change phone numbers and addresses, and they're also going to send, and then they can go in and send out wire and ACH payments. Working on a customer right now who had 10 payments that were sent out, totaling a little over $4 million, of which we stopped 5 of those payments, and another 5 went out. The customer gave the fraudster the information, the login information, and the fraudster just went in and did the rest. So another one that we're seeing, and I don't have a slide on this, but please, be careful of this, is however you log into your online banking, be careful with that. Now, if I want to check my accounts, I just type in mtb.com, or maybe you type in chase.com, that's their URL. Sometimes people are going to Google or any other search engine, and fraudsters are now buying sponsored links to bad links. We've seen them, MTB-U. It's a fraud link. People will put in their credentials. Now the fraudsters have the credentials. They go back into the real site, they log in as you, and they start making bad transactions. So, maybe either bookmark your sites that you use for financial transactions, or go to mtb.com, and I think Treasury Center is 2 or 3 clicks away. So be careful with that as well. I'm going to talk about. Here's the example of that I talked about with the 10 wires and the $4.2 million. We're still working on this one. This one happened in October. So I'm going to talk about business email compromise. And if you don't know what business email compromise, I bet you've been targeted on it. Maybe you didn't know it had this name. It's basically you get an email from somebody pretending to be maybe your vendor or maybe your boss, and they're telling you that you need to send a payment out. Started out with what we call spoofing, which is basically just changing in a small way, changing your email address. My email address is lbalcom@mtb.com. But in certain fonts, if you put an R and an N next to each other, that looks like an M. So lbalcom@rntb.com, somebody could be impersonating me. That's what we call spoofing. You change a 0 to an O, or a 1 to an L, or an I to an 1, or an I and L. Different things like that. Transpose letters. That's what they change the email a bit. But fraudsters realize that if you see an email coming from me, it's going to say Lee Balcom and then lbalcom@mtb.com. Most of the time, you're just looking to see who it's coming from, not necessarily the address. So fraudsters got smarter, and they started doing computer and email intrusions. They will get some bad software on your machine, whether it's through a phishing link is how they'll do it, and then they will they'll just log what you're doing and get into your email. They'll use it to pretend to be your vendor, and because they're in your email, there's a lot of information that they have. So they know that you do business with ABC Company, and they know what ABC Company's invoices look like. So they'll copy that. They'll use Photoshop and copy that invoice and tell you to change the banking information. Hey, Joe, we're no longer using Chase Bank. I want you to send this payment now to TD Bank. There's the routing number and account number. The money goes out, and then 45 days later, your vendor calls you and says, hey, you never paid invoice number 123. You say, I certainly did. Here's the email. Well, then that money is gone. Who's responsible? You? Maybe. The vendor? Maybe. But either way, you've got an outgoing payment that's sitting out there, and you might not be able to do business without the goods that you bought. They targeted large corporations for reasons because they have most of the money. But then they realized that small to mid-sized businesses have less security. So those are just as easy targets too. And they go after retail customers as well. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. Here's an example. This is an older one, but this is a real example of how business email compromise unfolded. So Gina is an office manager. Tim is a CFO, and Dave is the CEO. I think their names that are played out on here. And Gina sees this email. She said, from David, are you able to process an international wire before the cutoff time? So she looks below and she sees that, okay, it says subject is wire payment. It's a conversation between Dave and Tim. And Dave is saying to Tim, per our conversation, attaches the wiring instructions. As you already know, support for this will come in handy later. Let me know when this is processed. So Gina thinks Dave and Tim are working on something and they want me to process a wire. So, okay, all right, I got to start asking some questions. What she doesn't know is that the fraudster wrote both of these emails. Fraudsters pretending to be Dave and Tim wrote that email on the bottom half and then sent out an email to Gina so that she could see that, well, they're working on something. So she says, for how much? The fraudster says for $314,701. And she says, she emails back, okay, is this supposed to be out of our M&T lockbox account? Do you have a free moment to call my cell? Last thing the fraudster wants is to talk to Gina. If he talks to Gina, the gig is up. So he's going to try to create some urgency here. And what he says, or she says, is, can it wait? What's the issue? Now, the yellow is mine, the bold is the fraudster. Gina panics a little bit because she thinks that Dave is getting mad at her because he wants to get this payment out quickly. So she says, you answered my question. I just need to understand this a little bit better because in order to be paid out of lockbox, it needs to be paid into the account, blah, 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 blah. And she sends out and then she says, I have approved the wire, so it has been submitted. Now, this all happened on a Friday, and come Monday, I think it was actually, no, it was a Monday. Then she sends an email that says the wire that was sent out was completely bogus. I need it pulled back immediately. Please call me ASAP. This went to the bank. Now, unfortunately, in this situation, we were not able to get that money back. It moved quickly. It went to a large bank, and then it went to another bank. And I think it ended up going to China. We weren't able to get anything back, but you can see how these unfold. Another version of it that they do is they're targeting your employees. And they'll target your employees' personal email addresses. But what they'll do, they will send an email from the employee to your payroll department with pretending that the employee wants their direct deposit changed. So smaller dollars. It's not. I mean, maybe some of you are making $314,000 a week or every other week. Good for you. That's fantastic. But smaller dollars. We've seen these anywhere from $8,000 down to $400. But the quantity on them is up. We used to see 2 to 3 cases like this a year. We probably see 6 to 8 a month now. The largest category of business that fraudsters target with business email compromise is real estate. And now I'm in New York State. I'm in Buffalo, New York. In New York State, when you buy a home, there are a lot of people in between. It takes a long time to get that home sale done, but you've got the buyer and the seller, you've got the real estate company on both sides, you've got lawyers, you've got title companies. There's a lot of people in the middle. Targeting one of them probably isn't going to be too hard. Here's an example of one. This was a couple that were moving from Western New York down to Florida for retirement. So they're working on the last payment. It's going to be $201,000. I think it was the wife. She received an email from the title company or something that said, here's the information for the last payment. Here's where I need you to send it. She calls and verifies the payment. And then she went into the branch and she processed the payment. The branch asked her all the right questions. How did you get the instructions? Did you verify? All the right questions. What she didn't tell the bank was that after she verified that by calling the title company or whoever it was, she then got another email from the fraudster who was probably looking at her email and changed the payment instructions to a money mule account. So this couple that had been working all their lives took a $201,000 loss and canceled their retirement. So this doesn't just affect large corporations; it's going to affect us as individuals as well. Something else that we're seeing, SIM swapping. This was big a couple months ago. I think it is. You're seeing people who work in like, I don't want to put anybody, but like a Verizon, AT&T, a T-Mobile, and they will swap out SIM cards, and fraudsters will buy those SIM cards and basically do a takeover of your phone. Be very dangerous. Another thing that we see is people spoofing phone numbers. I have an app on my phone, on my iPhone, that I can call Nancy and make it look like it's coming from Scott. So when her phone rings, she'll say, "Oh, Scott McBean is calling." But it could be me pretending to be a fraudster. So we see this all the time. And what happens with that is fraudsters are really trying to get into your account to do some account takeover and get some money out of your account. So for instance, let's just say you get a call from a fraudster and the phone number that comes up is the M&T Bank Fraud Department or Chase Fraud Department. Did you authorize a $589 purchase to Best Buy? Yes, I did. Okay, now you get a call from the bank, quote unquote. And the fraudster, and the person is a fraudster, and they say, good afternoon, am I speaking to Nancy? Did you recently sign into your Chase account from Omaha using a Samsung Galaxy? Now, Nancy's in New Jersey. She's got an iPhone, and she didn't log into her account. So she's thinking, oh my God, I've got a problem here. So she says, no, I didn't do that. The fraudster, they're very smooth. She's gonna say, don't worry, I'll help you get this straightened out. Looks like somebody has hacked into your account. You're not gonna have any charges. I just need to get it to verify some information with you. They might already have some information from all these breaches that we've had. So they start verifying things. And then Nancy basically gives up the passcode when you get that one-time passcode that the bank sends you when a suspicious login gets into your account, and Nancy gives that out, and next thing you know, the fraudster is in her account and can move $40,000 in about 4 minutes. So by using Venmo, Zelle, and those faster payments. Smishing. Smishing is very similar, except instead of a phone call, it's a text. Maybe you'll get a text that's saying, M&T alert, your online account has been revoked due to suspicious activities. To restore, click here. Your one-time verification code is this. If you didn't do this, click here. They want you to click. They want to do one of two things. Put some malicious malware on your device, or open up a page where you'll give them your credentials. We've seen these credential harvesting sites where they're very bold. They ask for username, password, social security number, and PIN ID. So they're asking for those 4 things. And, you know, they might send out 100,000 of these. They'll use computer bots to send them out. And even if they get 1,000 of them, even if they only bat 1%, now they're in 1,000 accounts. So if you get one of these, even if it is your bank, if it's not your bank, if it's a bank you don't do any business with, just delete it. And I think in an iPhone you can report junk. If it is your bank and you think, this doesn't look right, but maybe it is, go into the branch or call your bank up from a known number, not a number that's in one of these codes, and see what's going on with it. Because maybe you did sign up for alerts and you forgot about it. So, but for the most part, I would say 99 out of 100 times they're probably going to be bad. Okay, I'm going to talk about mail and check fraud. So I mentioned at the top that we're seeing a ton of mail theft and a ton of check fraud. What's going on is fraudsters are stealing mail out of mailboxes. They create these phishing poles with tape on it. They put it down and they just pull up whatever they can get. Or they hold up, we've seen video where they're holding up a postal carrier and they want to steal what they call the arrow key, which gets you into all those blue mailboxes. So they're stealing mail, and there's a couple things they want to do with it. They want to get checks out of it. Here's an example. Here's a couple pictures we see. Arrow key is on the right there. And these pictures, I think, were taken from Rochester. You got the Ring camera, and across the street, you see the mail truck. And even though it's a little bit blurry, but the bottom picture shows the guy in the gray. He's holding up the mail carrier. He wants that key so he can get into the mailboxes. When they get in the mailboxes, there's a couple things that they can do. They're basically, number one priority is they're looking for checks so that they can counterfeit those checks and alter those checks. They're also looking for information about you. Let's just say, I shop at Target, all right, and maybe I get some mail from Target. Well, now they know I'm a Target customer. Maybe then later on, or they'll sell my information, I'll get an email from Target that happens to be a phishing link that has malware on it. So they're trying to find out information about me. But checks have a lot of information about us. So I know we're on a webinar here, but there's a lot of details on a check about us that a fraudster can use to commit fraud. So for instance, we've got your maker information. That's who you bank with. Then you can use that to counterfeit checks. The bank name, the check number. In this case, it's 5719. A fraudster is not going to use check number 123 because that check has been cashed probably years ago. They're going to stay in the range. Your signature, that's going to help them. Routing and account number, that helps. I always like to say that check fraud is the gateway drug to ACH and wire fraud. For instance, let's just say a fraudster gets a handle on one of your business checks, okay? They're going to pretend, they call you up, they pretend to be your vendor. Hey, this is Kathy from the accounts payable department of XYZ company. We received your check, but I don't know what happened. Maybe it got beat up at the post office or it fell in a puddle, but I can't read it. Can you just give me your bank account information and we'll do an ACH right now. So they also can get check stock out of there. The memo line, that adds legitimacy when I'm counterfeiting, and the payee line. Now, they'll wash a check, wash a check, you can learn how to wash a check. It's unfortunately, it's pretty easy. They'll take out ABC Water Company in this case, and they'll type in the name of some money mule who they're working with to go in and cash the check. Instead of $110.52, maybe they'll make it out for $2,000 or $1110.52, and they'll go and they'll get that check cashed. But then again, so that's an altered check. Now I've got your check, and I can counterfeit your check. So here's an example. We get a email banks get emails every day. We work with a company that shows us what checks that have been stolen. We see these every day that we'll work on the accounts, notify the users on them. But these are all stolen checks, stolen right from the mail. And then maybe they're not stolen from the USPS boxes, but let's just say that you put you put them in your mailbox and you put that red flag up. That's another way they could steal it. Or it goes in the outbox and somebody goes in and takes it. Different things. There's different ways that they can steal it. These envelopes, the envelopes with windows, if you're using these to mail checks, do yourself a favor and just staple the cash to the outside of the check. That way they won't get your account number information and your routing number and other information about you. So just don't use these envelopes if you're sending out cash, or if you're sending out checks, I should say. Give you an example of check fraud. This is a study. This was actually from the Fed. It's an Orbograph study, but from the Federal Reserve. The blue line represents check volumes. So you can see since 2001, it was in the 42 million, and as of 2022, 11.8 billion checks have been sent out. Okay, that's how many went through the banking system. But look at the check fraud. There's more check fraud than there is checks being sent. So, and here's the challenges with check fraud. Okay, now remember, a check that is stolen is a real check. It's a live check. That check can be washed, like I said, and made out to a new payee and put in a different number. When a fraudster has your account number, they can do ACH fraud and account takeover fraud. Good check stock is easy to recreate. It creates synthetic business fraud. That is when they have your check and then they create a business that's very similar to your name. Score dot, let's just say, Score, I'll make it Score LLC. Do something along those lines, and then they counterfeit your checks, deposit your checks, and that money comes out of your account, and then you got to work with the banks to get it back. The other problem that's going on right now is because check fraud has become so sophisticated, who's liable? Is it the bank of first deposit? Is it the bank that owns the account? Well, banks are going back and forth on this, and maybe the bank has offered you fraud protection services and you said no. And so the bank is going to say, well, we don't know if we're going to cover that claim. So it's taking longer for recovery times. So say you send out a $40,000 check, it could take up to 6 months before you get your money back. Now, I don't know how long you can sit on $40,000, but that's the type of thing. So that's going on. Banks are working to better understand activity along with image analysis. Instead of just looking at the check and matching the signature, we're looking at activity. For instance, I'm an older male. If somebody is using my check to do something like a game store or something like that, I know it's a bad example, but they're going to look at the activity to see if they match it up to me. And then I don't use these presentations to talk about sales or anything like that, but you should look at your bank's fraud protection services like Pay, Positive Pay, ACH Monitor, different things like that protect you. A lot of this stuff starts with phishing attacks. Phishing attacks are just like smishing, except it's through email. We get an email that basically is promising us a great deal, or somebody's giving us money, or we won the lottery, or there's something in the news. Back in 2011, 2010, I forgot the exact year, but when the United States Navy SEALs killed Osama bin Laden, there was a lot of emails going on about seeing pictures and video of the attack. They've never been released by the United States. It didn't stop people from clicking. What happened was fraudsters put malware on your machines or did something like that so they could steal your credentials and your passcodes and things like that. So if these emails, they prey on curiosity and greed, great deals, emotion, things like that. But if you don't think an email is coming to you, just don't click on it. It's okay in the preview, but just don't click on any links in it or any attachments in it. Just delete it. I mean, Amazon did not become a $1 trillion company by sending you $50. So just be careful of these things. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Okay, now this ugly slide, I'm going to break it down a little bit. This is the world's biggest data breaches and hacks. I think I go up to 2021 or 2022 on this. Here's some of them, the examples. You got Facebook on there a couple times. The Shanghai Police, Cineverse, Oxydata, Marriott, Apollo. Go back even further. You had Yahoo, Friend Finder Network. What happens in these situations is these breaches. Experian was one that was recent. You get a little bit of information about us. Maybe it's your social security number, your driver's license number. Maybe it's your address or something like that. There's two types of people in this world: those who have been breached and those who think they haven't been breached. But the bad news is we've probably all been breached. There's some information about us out there somewhere, and a fraudster can use that to kind of create a picture of us. So, they have my from LinkedIn, they got my username and passcode. All right. From Experian, they maybe got my social security number. From another one, they got my address. That information is for sale. I mean, I can create, if you're a bad guy, you can go on the dark web, which is a super large marketplace, and package things up and buy data on people. Maybe you want to buy credit cards. How much are they worth? Well, these numbers change all the time. This is a commodity. But if I've got a credit card with the CVV number, that 3-digit code, that's worth about $5. If it's got your banking information, that makes it adds another 10, so it's up to 15. If it's what they have, if it has what's called fulls, all the information on you, your name, address, social security number, your card number, that's worth $30. Your passport, that's worth anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. Your social security number, $1. Your social security number has been breached so many times that it just doesn't even have much value. Now, what fraudsters will do with this information, like I said before, I'm in Buffalo, New York. Our zip code here is 142 something. So if I'm a fraudster, I might want to buy, and I live in Buffalo, New York, I might want to buy 500 profiles on people who live in 142. That way it won't flag when it goes to, if I'm stealing your Visa card, it won't flag the Visa that I'm in 10019. So you can package stuff up. I want to buy 500 items from this zip code or 500 from this zip code or different things like that. So this kind of shows you what your information is worth, even though, again, those prices change all the time. I talked about the LinkedIn breach, username and password. So what they do with usernames and passwords is they can do something called credential reuse or credential stuffing. Basically, what that means is if I have your username and passcode, why can't I go to every banking site from a smallest credit union to the largest bank and use my bots, my robots, to plug in those usernames and passwords on every single bank, on banking site? Let's just say I'll start with M&T. I can do 100,000 of them in an hour and see if I get any hits. If you use the same username and password that you use on your banking site that you use for your social media, you're asking for trouble because those get breached. And if say my passcode is lbalcom@mtv.com and my passcode is gobills1, and that's what I use for my financial site as well as for my social media sites and my news sites, well, I'm just asking for trouble because a fraudster easily has that information. So if you take one thing out of what I have to say today, for your financial sites, whether it's your retirement site or your banking sites, your credit card sites, use a different passcode for your financial sites than you do for anything else. And like I use the example of GoBills1. If I use GoBills1 for Facebook, don't use GoBills2 for your Chase account. Use something completely different. They just plug those in, and that's how they get into a lot of accounts. Ransomware. Ransomware has gone through the roof in the last couple of years. Basically, ransomware is there's malware in your computer, and what they will do is they will lock up your machine. Now, it's not just your computer, it could be your whole network for your business. They go after government agencies, they go after hospitals and any large networks, but they go after small businesses too. I've even seen this on some retail attempts. What they're doing is they are locking up your files, and you're going to get something from them. It's probably going to be on the screen that says all of your files have been encrypted. It's going to cost you 3 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin or whatever if you want if you want an encryption code to get all your information back. Now, you can pay them. You don't have to pay them. A lot of times people work with third parties to help negotiate the price. Law enforcement will tell you not to pay the ransom. There is no guarantee that you'll get it back. But you can see on here the number of attacks that there have been. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how ransomware has affected companies. First one is Baltimore. The city of Baltimore had one. I forgot how long it lasted. I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks. And no home sale could be finalized because they couldn't get lien releases. City couldn't collect any fees. Housing sales slowed because you got to work with the city on those. City was forfeiting and delaying tax payments. Title companies lost income, so it's not just the city of Baltimore. Anybody who's affected, who does business with the city of Baltimore, or anybody who needs city government, couldn't do anything. Parking enforcement was disabled. They had to write paper tickets, but they couldn't log them into their system, and they got a backlog of them. They just collected them. So 3 months later, you got a notice that you got a ticket. Water billing meters couldn't be processed. Don't worry, water companies or the water division still got their money, but you, instead of paying for 3 months, by the time you got your bill, you had to pay for 6 months. City had to replace 335 servers. 400 more were decommissioned. They examined 10,000 computers. Their insurance rates went up, and this cost to the city was about $20 million. So now let me just take that another way. There is a 2-doctor practice that had ransomware on it. The ransom that they were asked for was very low. I think it was like $15,000. They negotiated it down to $7,500, and they paid it. But they've got 15 people in their office. They've got 15 infected computers. They've got an infected network system, and they've got medical records too. So I don't even know what what HIPAA laws that they had to work against. So I think this whole thing, besides the $7,500 that they paid in ransom, cost them about $25,000. So, and that's just for a 2-doctor practice. So, with ransomware, I work with a good IT company to protect yourself, but you really got to back up your data, and keep it off your network. Change your default credentials as much as you possibly can. Use antivirus software, and again, a lot of these start with these phishing. So, ransomware could be very, very crippling to a company. And think about it, like I said, with Baltimore, even a business. If you're down, the average time a business is down is 21 days. So 3 weeks where you can't do any business. No sales, no accounts receivable, no accounts payable. So your business is down for what's 52 divided by 1/17, I think, if I do my math right. So for about 6 to 7% of the year, your business is down and you can't do anything. Switching gears here, I want to talk a little bit about faster payments like Venmo, Zelle, Cash App. I mean, I use them. I like them, but the thing I'm going to tell you about them is make sure you verify who you are sending the funds to, because once that money leaves, once you press transact, and that money is gone, and a bank is not going to be able to help you get those funds back. If I go back to the top with the business email compromise and the $314,000 example, every day we see those every day, and we're able to go to the bank where the money was sent and say, hey, that was fraud. Can you hold the money, or can we want to get the money back? If there's money there, if the money hasn't been moved out of their financial institution, we'll exchange some legal paperwork and we can do a recovery. On these faster payments ones, on real-time payments, our chances of getting the funds back are maybe less than 1%. So just make sure you know who you're sending it to. Passwords, I talked about this a little bit. I know they're a pain. I use a password manager on my phone to keep them because we have so many of them. I'm going to show you in a minute how easy it is for a hacker to crack into your passcode. But for the sites that are very important to you, your financial sites, different things like that, use longer and stronger passwords. Don't reuse passwords, like I said before, especially on financial sites. Don't share your passwords. Uppercase letters, lowercase numbers, all those special characters. The longer your passcode is, the harder it is for a fraudster to crack into. Now, I'll give you an example here. I check this chart every now and then. It hasn't updated in a while, but let's just say you have a 6-digit passcode for the sake of this conversation. If it's only numbers, that can be cracked instantly. If it's mixed lower and uppercase, that takes 8 seconds. If it's mixed numbers, lower and uppercase alphabets, that's 3 minutes. And 13 minutes if you have numbers, upper, lowercase, and special symbols. That's on a 6-digit passcode. So a fraudster can crack that pretty easy. Let's just go down to 12 for the sake of this again. So an hour if it's only numbers, 600 years if you got mixed lower and uppercase alphabets, and you can see going across. You know what's going to happen? A fraudster is not going to spend an hour trying to crack their passcode. They're just going to go to the next victim or next target because they've got hundreds of thousands of them. They're going to go to the next person. So if your passcode is hard to get into, they're not going to waste time trying to get into it. They're going to move on to the next person. So make your passcodes a little bit more challenging. So I've been going on for a while. I'm going to talk now about some things, what you can do to protect your business. So establish procedures when it comes to payments and follow them. Let's just say, I'm giving you examples. I mean, you're going to need to do one that's going to fit your business. Any payment over $5,000 must be dual approved by 2 people. And they both have to verify the payment. And when I say verify the payment, you have to research where the payment come from. Did it come from an email and there was an attachment in there? Well, any fraud, as I talked about before, any fraudster can get your email and pretend to be somebody else. So call up that company call up your vendor from a known phone number, not a phone number on the invoice, from a known phone number that you have and say, hey, is this payment exact? Is this correct? Especially if it's asking you to change information like sending it to a new bank. Dual administration, so that means two people involved. Review your transactions regularly. This goes for businesses as well as individuals. I look at my bank account every single day just to make sure there's nothing fishy in there. And my credit cards, I probably look at 2 to 3 times a week. Again, I just want to make sure there's nothing in there that is nefarious. 2-layer authentication, always good, and multi-factor authentication is good too. So if it's offered, I would take you up on it, or I would take it up. Explore fraud and cyber insurance, but know what you're buying, because depending on the company or the policy that you have, the example that I used in the beginning with the $314,000, that might not be covered because that was human error. It's really not a technical breach. So you got to make sure you know what you're getting when you buy your insurance. Just be aware of these types of scams and keep up to date on the scams that are out there in the news. Verify those emails. Keep your computers and your networks run your up-to-date security software. Use unique passwords, fraud prevention, and look at fraud prevention and detection software, and have a good IT company. A few more, which a lot of these I covered. Let's just talk about update for terminations. Okay, let's just say you've got an employee who's been at your company for 30 years. He was the best employee ever. You're sad to see him go, but he's got a well-deserved retirement. The day that he leaves, you get him out of your system. His username should no longer work. His passcode should no longer work, and he should have no access to any of your systems. Why? Well, because he's not going to try to rob you. No, he probably isn't. But it doesn't mean that maybe he's got that on his home computer, and that computer gets hacked. Or maybe the cleaning lady sees the passcodes that he's got all on a Post-it note on his computer, and she sells it, different things like that. Now, I know these are extreme examples, but we've seen them happen. So update for terminations. Reconcile your accounts on a regular basis. Segregate duties. Change your passwords regularly. So that's you'll get these in the packet afterwards. If you are a victim, contact your bank as soon as possible so that they can try to get your funds back. Contact your local police department. This is going to help with insurance claims and the recovery. If it's I don't think that the FBI looks at anything under, I don't know the number, but I think it's 50,000. But if it is, file a report with ic3.gov. We've seen, I'll be honest with you, we've seen things go into a black hole and nothing ever comes of it. I've seen them where the FBI gets heavily involved. On the example that I used earlier with the 10 wires that went out for $4 million, the one of them went to China, and the FBI is trying to help us recover the funds. And once, if you are a victim, immediately change all your passwords related to your financial sites. So my disclosures, thank you for reading, and we'll go with any questions. But while we see if we have any questions, I'll go to this slide because Nancy has provided some really nice, helpful links on fraud as well as things that SCORE can help you with. So, do you have any questions, Nancy, so far? Or no?
Oh yes, we have questions.
Okay.
A Zoom user, which is many people on here, can you explain more about problems with envelopes with windows?
Well, the envelopes with the window, you give a fraudster a view into what's in that envelope. And checks are easily spotted. I think in the example that I used, you could see that it was a check. So you're basically telling the fraudster that, hey, I got a check in here, go ahead and steal it. So, and remember, when you mail something, and again, I'm not anti-mail. I'm not, and I'm more anti-check than I am anti-mail. But when you mail something, let's just say you put it in the outbox in your office, okay? How many people walk by there? And then the postal clerk, the postal service guy comes and picks it up, okay? And then it goes to the post office, and then it gets to the other company. How many people are actually touching or seeing that envelope? Which just increases your risk of fraud. But if you're telling them and showing them that you've got a check in there, it just increases it even more because, again, a live check can easily be altered. I can change that name from ABC Company and $1,000 to Lee Balcom and make it $10,000. So that's why I'm kind of anti on those. I hope that answered your question.
What is your opinion on subscribing to security protection against robocallers? Now they are collecting your audio and voice, and it's part of their scamming schemes. They have used the voice recording against families, friends of that person.
If you're going to sign up for to not get the phone call, I forgot the name of the site. There's a darn it. I did the presentation with Homeland Security, and there are maybe Google, can spam act or something like that, and do it online as opposed to doing it audio if you're concerned about that. We are seeing you're bringing up another question, and maybe you intended to ask, but AI with artificial intelligence and reproducing our voices and even our video. Yeah, we're seeing that more and more. The software is still a little bit clunky, but it's getting better and better. So I would just recommend, if you want to not get those phone calls, I would just recommend going to the internet. And I'm sorry, I don't have a site to tell you what that is.
Lee, on slide, I think it was 32, you had bubbles, yellow and blue, big and small.
Yeah.
What was the difference between the yellow and the blue?
I don't know.
It was just a cool graphic.
Yeah, that's a site that those are pictures I stole from a site called Information is Beautiful. I think I do give them credit on the site.
Yeah.
Let me go back a couple more here.
I imagine the size might be relative, but blue and yellow maybe just was.
Yeah. It might have been. See, well, Target was big, and Yahoo was big. So no, I think it's just for graphical purposes. It's a good question. I'm going to dig into that and find out. But since I'm here, if I can go off on a tangent here, let me talk about the Target breach for a second. There was a very interesting one. Basically, what they got out of were millions of credit cards. That's what the fraudsters got out of that. But Target, they use a third-party company to regulate temperatures. In this case, it was a heating and cooling company based, I think they were in Maryland and Pennsylvania. And what this company can do is, let's just say it's the Monday before Thanksgiving, they keep the temperature at 68 degrees, but the day after Thanksgiving, when everybody's in the store, the temperature goes up because there's so many people and it's 72. Well, this company could automatically regulate the temperature. That company got breached. And that's how the fraudster found their way into Target. Now, very sophisticated in how they got all those credit cards out, but that's how they got in. So 4 million or however many millions of credit cards were stolen because of a third-party vendor. So you got to make sure that your third-party vendors have correct or have good security as well. So sorry to go off on that tangent, but and that's a great question. I don't know the answer. I'm sorry about that.
Zelinka asked, how do you feel about systems that will generate a secure password for each account and holds it for you? Are they safe? And is there any you recommend for use?
So, wait a minute. So is the question when your phone asks or your computer says, do you want to use our longer password that Apple's generating? Yeah, it's definitely safer. What I don't know on that is if it's cross device. So if is the same, can I use that on my iPhone as well as my iPad as well as my computer? I don't know the answer to that. But yeah, I mean, those passwords they're going to be extremely hard to be cracked. A lot of times you can't even see them and you're not going to write them down. But yeah, if you can do it, sure, I would. You just got to be careful with the devices.
Katie asked, do you recommend antivirus software?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. However, there are tons of phishing ads for McAfee and Norton. Don't click on them. Those are most likely scam. Go right to McAfee or go right to Norton. Go to their website, Google their website. Don't use the sponsored link. And make sure you have the right website for them, because a lot of fraudsters are doing that. They're sending out these links saying, "Oh, your McAfee is out of service, or your Norton is beyond its warranty. Click here to update." Those are bad links.
I think I get a McAfee every day.
Yeah.
Tyra sent in some examples of passphrases, which are great examples of difficult passwords. Sarah asked, in general, would you recommend old school banking, such as paper banking and going to brick and mortar locations, or is online banking better? Want to minimize the risk.
Okay, so that's a big question. I try to use online banking as much as I can. I don't have any problem with going into the branch. It's just not as convenient. If you're out and about. Now, if I'm going to say I send a check, if I pay my utility company, that payment, if I do it online, that payment is probably going to go via ACH. But if it's, let's say, a guy who mows your lawn, he's probably going to get a check. He's going to get a paper check. All right. What happens is when you set him up in your web bill pay and you pay a bill, $100 to Best Lawn Guy, what happens is the money is taken out of your account, but the check that he receives is from a bank account. It's not from your account. So if that check is stolen, it's not your information that's taken. So I like that. I think that is definitely more safe. So I think the answer to your question is going to be it could be both. If everybody has your usernames and passwords, well, your online banking isn't. If you're putting that information out there, that's not going to be helpful. But going into the branch, sure, it's going to be helpful. But then again, you're dealing with checks. So, and you know how I feel about checks.
On one of your later slides, you had do not do business via P2P. Someone asked, what does that mean? Person to person?
Yeah. Do not do business via P2P?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's was that the Venmo slide? Venmo and Cash App slide, I think. Yeah, P2P means person to person, or peer to peer is really what it means.
Peer to peer.
Yeah. But I don't say don't use those. I want to clarify. I use them, but just know who you are sending those funds to.
Okay, here it is. Yep.
Oh, I said don't do business
transactions.
Yeah. I wouldn't send to my larger vendors via that channel. A lot of big companies do it with. A lot of real estate companies will do it because their renters will pay. via that. You know, they've got to probably have some more sophisticated software and security though.
Tyra mentioned that positive pay is great for businesses. Personally, one can use LifeLock and check lock systems to protect from fraud, use of credit, and opening false accounts. Anything else other than situational awareness that a person can utilize?
Anything than like a LifeLock or anything other than those? Those are personal. A good IT company and good security. I'm not sure. You know, those vendors, and we really can't recommend any vendors, but yeah, I would have very good start. It starts with procedures, of course, making sure that you're doing the right thing and making sure that you follow your procedures on payments. Like I said, any payment over 5,000 must be dual approved. Anything over 35,000, you know, has to have another sign off or something along those lines. But no, I think that those are probably some of the better ones.
Is a check inside a greeting card obvious to those looking to steal checks?
Is a check inside a green card? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, is a check inside a greeting card obvious to those looking to steal checks? I think from a standpoint, greeting cards often have a gift check inside, so they steal envelopes that are, you know, greeting cards.
If a fraudster goes and steals mail, he's, you know, obviously the ones with the envelopes are going to be with the window envelopes are going to be the easiest. But that fraudster is going to go through everything.
Yeah.
You know, you're not getting a large haul from a mailbox. You know, you might, I don't know how many pieces you get. Maybe you get 150 pieces. You're going to go for all of them. You know, a lot of those you might even put cash. But yeah, it's not in the window. It doesn't look like a business envelope. I mean, if that mail is stolen, it's stolen. So but I would say those standalone blue boxes on a corner, I wouldn't use those. What the post office recommends and what we recommend is if you're going to mail a check, go into the post office and do it that way. That's the best way to do it. You're eliminating, you know, many people from touching it and going from that standalone blue box from somebody stealing from there. So go to the post office, probably the best way to do it, especially with something like a greeting card.
So good. Next question. Have you seen cases of postal employees being involved in fraud schemes?
Not related to anything that we have, but of course, yeah, there's been cases like that. There was a situation, I think, where a postal employee was arrested recently, like in the last 2 or 3 months, for stealing mail and giving it to fraudsters.
Is the APP safer to use over .com?
APP?
Yeah, it's capitalized APP, safer to use over .com. It's anonymous. I don't know if somebody can maybe be a little more descriptive. Somebody else said this is a much needed info. Please do a part 2 if possible. Will we receive the recording of the webinar? Yes, they will. We will send out a recording and the slides and some additional information.
Happy to.
And if you have specifics for part 2, you know, you can let us know. Lee's information and Scott's information are shared. So if you have specifics that you'd like us to ensure we have a part 2, let us know. The APP, it means application versus website. Is the application safer to use over a website?
Oh, okay. So go. I would say that they're both okay as long as you know you've got the right application and you've got the right website. I mentioned before in the beginning about how we're seeing a lot of fake M&T Bank sites that are sponsored links that people they're basically advertising. You just got to make sure that you have the right link. I wouldn't be surprised to see fake apps coming out relatively soon too. Now, you know, I think it is up to Apple and Android to you know, to make sure that those are legitimate applications. But you know, I honestly, I don't know if I would pick one over the other. I do use both. I would say by banking, I do my banking from 2 spots. I do it from my work computer because I, you know, definitely trust our infrastructure, and I do it from my home computer. I would never take my laptop to a public library or a mall and transact on banking because I don't want to be on their Wi-Fi. I want to be on a trusted Wi-Fi source. I know I skirted around your question. I hope I answered it, but
And I appreciate a lot of people chimed in what APP was, so I appreciate everybody helping me out to understand it. We're just at one, so last couple of questions. Do you recommend using Apple Pay? Also, how about linking your bank account to a gas card at Wawa?
Let's see. I have a bank card linked to it would be Delta Sonic here. Wawa, yes, I am familiar with them. We don't have them here. We don't have them where I am. How much do you trust Wawa? How's their security? I guess is the company. I probably wouldn't link it to a standalone gas station. No offense to anybody who owns a standalone gas station, but I probably wouldn't link to something that I don't think has good security. What was the first part of that?
Do you recommend using Apple Pay?
Oh, yeah, I use Apple Pay all the time. We have Wegmans here. It's our supermarket, the one that I use, and I use Apple Pay for that all the time. I've never had any issues with it.
Great.
Doesn't mean I won't, but
We did have some comment. This is very helpful. Thank you for offering a part 2 focused on best practices, model SOPs, security configurations for tech, etc. So I think it's looking for a little bit more, what other things to put into place to prevent the fraud.
Okay.
Susan said, I sometimes have to provide my business bank account info for wire transfers for my customers. Is there any way to mask my account number or any recommendations for this situation?
Yes, there is. And now I am not a treasury management expert. Okay, so I'll say that. But there's a product that your bank probably offers. We call it UPIC. And basically, if I send out ACH transactions, it masks the number. That is my knowledge of that product, other than I know the people who use it love it. But yes, you can do that.
Last one at this point. What questions can we ask a possible fraudster if we suspect fraud communication through email? Or should that just be avoided?
I think it should just be avoided. If you are not sure if you're dealing with a real customer or you are dealing with a fraudster, find a good phone number from who you think you're talking to and call them on that number. Not a number in the email, not a number on maybe the invoice that they emailed you or something like that, but a good known phone number and call them up. But other than that, I would not communicate with the fraudsters. It's just, you're giving them a reason to communicate with you further. And the chances of them being caught, off of your phone call is probably slim. And save yourself the time and the frustration.
What was the product you just talked about? UPIC?
UPIC, UPIC. Now again, your banker will know. I don't know if Scott's still on, but he probably knows more about it than I do. I know Scott had other things he had to take care of, but whoever you bank with, talk to your relationship team. I don't care if it's Chase or whatever bank. I mean, I'm on the fraud side. I just want to see less fraud. Talk to them. Talk to the Treasury Management Department about a masking product for ACH payments. But we call it UPIC. It might be called that across the platform, but I'm not sure.
All right.
Hey, I popped back on. Were there any banking questions you needed me to answer?
Yeah. Do you know much about UPIC and that ACH protection product?
UPIC itself, not familiar with that term, but I put my contact info into in the chat. If someone wants to reach out to me, I can ask our treasury management person about it.
Yeah, well, Nancy, if you just, we can probably get back to that person.
Okay. You don't like checks, but what do you do when you have hundreds of vendors, more than half don't accept ACH?
And they don't accept, well, yeah, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. I mean, wires can be expensive. Yeah, you have to do checks. What I would do is just limit the number of people touching those checks. Don't use, window envelopes. I mean, take them to the post office, that type of a thing. I mean, it's I know we're all sick of COVID, but check fraud, stolen checks it's an epidemic right
now. I think that's it. There were a couple of questions that other people answered. and we're helpful in that fashion. So Lee and Scott, I want to thank you and M&T Bank very much for this presentation. We'll work on a part 2 and get some other information out there. So very much appreciate it. And for all of you who have been on the webinar, we will send out the information, the recording, slides, and some additional information that'll be helpful for you as a small business owner. And thank you all.
Thanks for the audience. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you,
take
Nancy.
care.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. Bye-bye.